The Steelers' playoff fate is officially determined, and is now the time to start switching things up at quarterback. Big Deep news. When you ask your girl if she ever had a hoe phase.
I don't really want to talk about the past.
That's right. On to Baltimore. New season. Fresh start. The past is in the past. The past didn't even happen. 4 losses in a row. 0-4 in the last 4 games. I didn't see that. We finished another regular season 10-7. No, I don't think so. As we sit here, Sunday, January 5th, 2025, the 0-0 Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be going on the road to face the 0-0 Baltimore Ravens this weekend. Winner advances, loser goes home.
We're in the single elimination tournament now.
And legit, objectively, why can't we beat the Ravens? Why not? We're 1-1 against them for this season already. So we beat them. That was at home. The most recent outing was on the road in Baltimore. But it's not like we were as out of that game as we make it seem. If Russ didn't throw that pick, if he didn't have that fumble in the first half when we were driving, game could have been a different outcome. There could have been a different script to the game there. And I don't want to do the whole coulda, woulda, shoulda thing because I get it. But those things don't happen. I felt like the offense was actually moving the ball at a decent clip against that Ravens defense. And then I think our defense found some things yesterday against the Bengals. It felt like we started to get things right in the communication department and get better on the same page. Giving up only 19 points to a Bengals offense is nothing to sneeze at. So why couldn't we do a little bit better in this matchup against Lamar as opposed to the last one? Given two, think of our history against Lamar. I think it's in 5 out of his 6 starts against us, he's played pretty bad. The only time he's played good was this last time. And I feel like our defense wasn't there at that point. It's not the defense that we're used to or the defense that we're expecting. And I'm not saying 100% for sure we're going to get that in this game, but at least I saw some signs of that in the Bengals matchup. Other reasons, Zay Flowers is hurt. So he might be out. That's Lamar Jackson's main target. And if he's there, he's probably going to be compromised. Steelers are like a dead man walking. We got nothing to lose, whereas all the pressure is on this Baltimore team and Lamar Jackson. Because everyone's saying the Steelers, we suck, we don't belong. And now people are trying to give the MVP to Lamar for a third-time MVP. And he's played that good this year. I can't even front. But it's still one of those things. It's like, cool, dude. We know you can win the regular season MVPs. What are you going to do in the playoffs? So that's still there. All that pressure still on Lamar. All that pressure still on the Baltimore Ravens. And that game's at home, too. You don't want to disappoint the home fans, man. They're the ones with the expectations. They're the ones that are supposed to be able to take out the Bills and the Chiefs and get to the Super Bowl. Steelers, you see how people are talking about us. We got nothing to lose, but we still have that same talent. The whole same personnel on defense that we had at the start of the season, in the middle of the season, when we were sitting at 10-3. Those guys are still there. Same with the offense. When our offense was humming, when our offense was putting up 30-plus points, 40-plus points, those guys are still there. It's just, are those guys going to show up like they did at those elite clips back in the day? Because over the last 4 games, what have you done for me lately? It hasn't been there to that degree. But again, the defense showed me a little bit something yesterday. And hopefully Arthur Smith and this offense and how we operated these last couple of games can learn from our mistakes and have a more open approach. Let Russ cook approach. Listen, bro, we can't be that conservative anymore. We're going up against some big guns here. We're going up against some big-time teams. We're going to have to be more on the offensive as opposed to just playing it safe. Maybe I'm coping. Maybe I'm making excuses, but maybe I'm right, man. Maybe I'm right. Crazier things have happened. I actually don't think, let's say the weekend plays out and we upset the Ravens on the road. Are you really going to be that surprised? I really wouldn't. I really wouldn't be that surprised. If somehow backs up against the wall, a Mike Tomlin team figures it out and we beat Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens on the road where, everyone's counting us out. We're the underdogs. Would that be that surprising? Not really. So, at least to me. So, the season can still be salvaged. But a lot of people are wondering right now, what personnel gives us the best chance to salvage it, particularly at the quarterback position? And the most simple way to put it, or the most simple way to ask it is it Fields time? The Steelers offense hasn't put up more than 17 points in 4 consecutive games. And what's sad about that is that's even a feat that Matt Canada couldn't accomplish. So it's fair to say that the offense hasn't been up to snuff. Russ hasn't been playing at his best, but it hasn't been all on him either. You got George Pickens dropping passes. We've had some bad play calls over the last couple games. Bad flow, bad rhythm to the offense. Some poor O-line performances recently. Wait, now that I say all this, am I in the Twilight Zone or something? Like, weren't we saying all these same exact things about our offense and their lack of production over the last 2 years? Were we saying this exact same shit? Don't forget, we ain't using the middle of the field. We're predictable, stale. Man. Now, is that because of Russ, or are we holding Russ back with the play calls? I think it's both. Like, Russ plays a certain way, so you're not going to be able to do certain things that maybe you could do with a Justin Fields. But also, it's not like we haven't run a more open style with Russ at certain stages of this season already. Think about the first game against the Jets. Like, dude, we put up 30-plus points. Russ had, what? I don't think he had 300 yards. I know he had 3 touchdowns, but that Giants game, that Commanders game, like, we were a high-flying offense. We were way more in shotgun. We were more pass-happy. That was the narrative at that time. When we put Russ and he started those first 3 or 4 weeks, we said the passing game is better with Russ. Like, what's happened, though, these last couple weeks? Like, what are we doing? Like, I'd be down, to be honest, like, with how we've been trending and how the offense has been looking, the fact that we haven't put up more than 17 points in any of these last 4 games, I'd be down to put Fields in. Like, I'd be cool with that. Like, you saw it with the Falcons and what they did with Kirk Cousins and Penix. They could have either stayed safe with Kirk Cousins or take the chance on Penix. And with that, you know, you're admitting the realization that we ain't winning a Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins. So let's see what Penix got. It's either, like, it could be worse because he's a rookie. Like, you never know. Like, he could have a worse floor, but the ceiling's higher, and the ultimate goal is to win Super Bowls, and we know we're not doing it with Kirk Cousins. Like, maybe if we stuck with Kirk, we make it to the playoffs, it's a little bit more safer, but then we get bounced in the first round. Like, we ain't doing any real damage with Kirk Cousins. But with Penix, it's just like, who knows? So that could be like a similar thing here, like if we put in Fields, man. Like, with his ceiling, with his talent, and just the fact, too, that defenses and teams, they won't know what to prepare for with our offense with Fields. Because I guess we do have some tape, but that was the first 6 weeks of the season. You mean to tell me if we put in Fields right now in the playoffs that we wouldn't be – like, that's a chance, that's a risk in and of itself. I feel like we'd be much more apt to let Fields cook and let Fields do his thing, like almost like he did in the second half of that Colts game when we were down multiple scores and it was like our only option. Fields was doing his thing. Fields was getting us back in that game. So there is risk, but what are we really risking right now with how we've looked recently? I mean, I guess the risk is you don't get to see what Russ could do in the playoffs. And, like, you got a chance of missing out on that experience that he brings to the table, that savvy he could bring to the table, and just the fact that he has that ability within him to rise up in the biggest of occasions. Just like yesterday in the second half and in the fourth quarter. Like, it wasn't his fault that we didn't complete the full comeback. George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth dropping the ball. They got to catch it. Simple as that. But let's be real. We're not doing it. We're not doing the Field swap. We're not benching Russ for Fields. Like, it's not happening. And I'm not even I'm saying I'd be cool with it. If I was a decision maker, I don't know if I honestly would. I think it's just you're at that point. At that point in the season, man, like, you got to stick with Russ. You made that decision back week 6, week 7. You got to this point, 10-7. It's not where you want to be, but still, you did clinch a playoff spot with Russ. Like, you've had a lot of good things happen. we've had some unlucky breaks in these last 4 games. We've also done it to ourselves. We've also played poor. Like, there's all that. But if there is any chance that we could get back to what we were before this 4-game stretch, like, it's worth keeping Russ in there because that was a legit team, man. I think that was a legit team that could compete with anyone in these playoffs. I think it's a different story if you're talking about the season ending right now. Who do you want to sign for the future? Who do you want to sign or prioritize for 2025? As it stands right now, I would go with Fields for all the reasons that I was talking about last week. Like, Russ really ain't playing better than what Fields was doing those first 6 weeks of the season. So if I had to give one of these dudes money, why not the dude that's 25, 26 that has still all the upside in the world versus a guy that's going to be 36 and isn't even necessarily playing better than the dude with all the upside. It just wouldn't really make sense to me. But we still got a game ahead of us. I think Russ can flip that script. He can convince me otherwise really quickly here with how he does in the playoffs. But with how things are trending, I'd go Justin Fields for 2025. But the great part about that is we don't have to worry about 2025 right now because we're still in this current season. If you're in the dance, you got a chance. Let's see what happens, man. But that's it for today's episode of Big Deke News. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Stay chilling. Peace.